Welcome to the Washdown podcast, episode number 105. And tonight, James and I sat down and had a really good conversation about self-awareness and personal accountability. Hope you guys enjoy it. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit the notification bell on YouTube. Leave comments, all that stuff. So here you go, episode 105 of the Washdown podcast. I think we just kind of stumbled on the right way for me to be able to do the post stuff with this. So
you and I haven't done just an episode in a while.
Oh shit, how long has it been?
4 months.
Somewhere in there.
So after our conversation last week, I thought a lot about accountability, which one could argue.
You're going to get me on a soapbox here because I had the same conversation about accountability with Rachel, probably in a different aspect than you're thinking of, but continue.
But probably might. We've talked about resources. We've talked about every single different treatment modality, everything we can. Mm-hmm. But I think the one thing we've shied away from is arguably the most important aspect of your mental health, and that's accountability.
Are you talking about personal accountability?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is not fair. It is doing a disservice, I think, to all of our viewers, at least in my aspect, for me to come on here and listen to people's stories and preach healing and try to hear other people out. And I'm doing a disservice almost to every listener and almost every guest if I'm not accountable. And we've joked about it. We've flirted about it, but we've never, you and I have never sat down for our viewers to hear and talked about, I think, our own accountability.
I think, whenever we first started, we kind of did episodes where we kind of shared our stories, of what it was to going on almost 3 years ago. Well, I mean, whenever we started talking about the podcast and things, but 2 years ago when we started it, we sat down and kind of told our stories of where we were at that time. So, but I like where you're going with this, so continue.
My problem is I told the story I wanted people to hear.
Okay.
It wasn't false. It was just the story I wanted people to hear. And I think, if anything, I may sometimes feel like the most unqualified person to sit over here because of it. My true mental health journey started, I think, when I was 10. After the murder of my mother. And this, keep in mind, this was the year 2000. What we know about, we didn't know half then what we know now about mental health. And there was always the need then for a label and then medication. That was the style of treatment back then.
You're in the tail end of that generation of just give everybody fucking Ritalin or whatever. So that's your generation.
Yeah. I've made mention to you off air and then with guests before, I think, about my feelings with medication when it comes to mental health treatment. Mm-hmm. But I've always just thrown out some smart one-liners and never really had the conversation of why I felt that way. I remember, so my mom was killed in the summer. Every year before that, I was on a roll. My behavior was fine. After that, my behavior went to shit. And I remember, my grandparents doing as best they could with the situation that was given to them, living with them. And it was even harder with my grandpa being the principal. It was harder and better in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I would remember, they put me in counseling 2 weeks after my mom was killed, weekly. And it was an hour south of where we lived. So I remember every Wednesday night we would, drive down there, and I would sit there. And I'll never forget the guy's name. His name was Randy Noble. I think he was nice as he could be. He had an office and it had toys, and I didn't understand why I was there. I wanted to play with the toys, make a friend, just talk about anything. And I remember just getting pressed on the issue of my mom getting killed. And I would remember I would have to sit in the waiting room chair while he would pull my grandparents in and then tell them about my lack of progress. And I remember, the school counselor would come and pull me out of class and talk to me and get upset if I didn't have the right answers. Not that I was being a smart ass or not paying attention. I truly didn't know how to answer a lot of the questions. I didn't understand, didn't comprehend. And I remember the teachers and, the counselors and my therapist, and they would all talk, and I would have to sit outside, or they would, whisper in front of me. And I remember an anger setting in then, because I felt like I no longer had control. And when that anger set in, I became terrible the rest of my youth. I didn't want to listen to anybody because nobody, I felt like, was truly listening to me. It continued into high school. I was doing better. I kind of got leveled out. I stopped taking, God, they fucking put me on Paxil forever. And I hated it. I finally stopped taking it. Had truly looking back, what I would just consider teenage boys doing dumb shit. We would hang out at my friend Tyler's house, and we were mostly unsupervised, so we would wreck shit, break shit, blow shit up.
So a bunch of dumb redneck shit.
I had a friend that didn't want to go on a hiking trip with scouts. And our genius idea at the time, his genius idea that we all thought was a genius idea, was if we broke his leg, he wouldn't have to go. Yeah. So
y'all guys didn't think that through.
Well, we were 16, 15, 16. So we tried. Didn't work. We just fucked it up. I was elected to do the attempted breaking because I was the fattest kid in the friend group. And I noticed the pattern start over. His parents were mad. They thought I had anger problems. They thought I was too aggressive. And the behind the back chatter started again. Over something I never felt that it was intended to be that. We were just stupid kids. And my anger came back. My outbursts. I punched holes in my wall as a kid. Then I'd break shit. I'd scream at my grandparents. I was so fucking mad. Ended up getting a juvenile officer over it. And it made it worse. And I was so mad. And had to go back to counseling. And again, it was the same thing.
They have toys for you this time whenever you're 16?
No.
Even worse, you probably had to talk about your feelings.
Yeah, and they were getting the 16-year-old pissy me. I had that pass. That was my sophomore year, I think. Junior year was all right. Senior year was all right. I wanted to go into the Marine Corps. I wanted to be a law enforcement. I wanted to be a cop. And I wanted to go in the Marine Corps. I remember I had talked with the recruiter and talked. And my grandparents, I remember the phrase was, well, there's always other sand piles to go play in. Why don't you look at college? The only reason I had a football scholarship to college was I accidentally stumbled into the coach's office as a college recruiter was there. My high school coach had taken every other senior of the 7 of us. He had taken the 6 others to meet with the recruiter and hadn't told me. And I accidentally stumbled in. And out of all 7 of us, when it was all, and he tried to shoo me out, and the recruiter's like, no, he can stay. Out of all 7 of us, after they reviewed all the film, I was the only one they chose to offer. And that pissed me the fuck off. And I had a big chip on my shoulder. And once again, I just felt like everyone had a plan for me that nobody wanted to talk to me about behind my back. And it fucking made me angry. And I took that chip with me to college. I didn't like college right off the bat. Looking back, I don't know that I ever really did. I can say, yeah, I had fun experiences, but they're fun drunk memories you bring up with your friends every 3 years when you maybe see each other.
Yeah.
I struggled a lot my freshman year. I got put on academic probation my freshman year. First semester. I had broken my jaw during football. It was new, and I just kept hitting setback after setback, and I hated it. And I held a lot of resentment for my grandparents because of it. Thanksgiving Day, my freshman year of college. It was right after the elections, when Obama first got elected. I was having a conversation with my grandparents around the table. And I was never nice to my grandma. And I feel like she did a lot of behind the scenes scheming and planning. Looking back now, I believe it was always her attempt for my best interest, but I hated it. And I held a lot of resentment. And I was verbally and physically violent a lot. Thanksgiving Day, I was giving them shit because they voted for Obama and we were just joking. And I remember the South Park episode at the time. Stan was always like, change, we want to change. And I just kept sitting at the dining room table saying that to them, and they were getting so mad. And I was leaving after we were done with dinner to go pick up the girl I was dating at the time to go to the plaza lighting. And my grandma, just like I think any parent, where are you going? Who are you going with?
When you going to be home?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
And I remember I snapped. and I screamed at her. And I was so mad. Why are you asking these fucking questions? And I remember the last thing I ever said to her as I was walking out the door. I was like, do you want their fucking social security number too? And I slammed the door and walked out of the house. And my grandpa came out and he's like, hey, what are you doing? Don't talk like that. She loves you. She's trying to figure out what's going on. It's no different than when you lived here. Because, I was in college then.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just fucking tired of the questions. I'm 18. I can fucking figure it out. I'm an adult.
Oh, how much we knew whenever we were 18 years old.
Went and picked her up as we were getting ready to pull on the plaza. I got a call that the fire department was at the house and that my grandma was going to the hospital. So I turned around. While I was driving down, found out that she had coded. They got her back. They were going to fly her up to the city. Except she kept coding, so they couldn't put her in the helicopter. So the flight crew rode in the ambulance with them up to the city. Got to the hospital. She coded again. And I remember the doctor coming over and was like, hey, we've been the talk that you and I have had with families.
Yeah.
And I remember the ER chaplain coming over to talk to my grandpa and I stormed out of the room. Because I think then it finally, there was a true in my face, undeniable, unnegotiable consequence of my action. And that was, anger will leave you with a lot more anger for the things you did or didn't say when you don't have a chance to repair them. After that, I became very, very bad. And I became very skilled at hiding it. I played the facade of sad death, use it for motivation. What would she want? Be a good human. And I took every bit of sympathy and love from anyone that showed it, and I used it to my own advantage. If it wasn't going to benefit me, if I didn't feel good about it, if I couldn't be popular or known for it, I didn't want it. Drinking got worse in college. I had 3 MIPs in the next 2 years following that. And that was just when they actually caught me. Like physically caught me if I didn't run.
Mm-hmm.
I had another girlfriend in college that I absolutely despised and didn't even realize it. And we would fight and throw things. It was terrible. And we were so toxic. And I didn't care. It was whatever I could do to make her feel like shit for me feeling like shit. I was very lucky years down the road to repair that friendship. She's doing well, so There was a lot of forgiveness on her part she didn't have to grant. And we would go out of our way to try and fuck each other's lives up, and I've never been a part of anything so toxic. Finished college. Met my ex-wife and into college. A year later, we had moved in together. And things were going all right. I felt loved. What I thought was love.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the one time she had left her tablet at my house, and I had opened it up and saw, not very explicit or anything, but just flirty messages with another guy. And it was like a fucking switch flipped. And again, all the, to put it best, my feelings probably when I was a kid was just feeling betrayed. And that same feeling came back. I felt betrayed. And then it became a game. How can I manipulate and control this situation for as long as I deem it necessary? And 2 or 3 more occasions, I caught her talking to other guys, and it just manifested and grew, and I got better at it. And the hatred got worse, and the fights got worse. And I then thought the next step it was one of 2 things. I said, this next step is either going to fix this, or it's going to give me more control, and that was a marriage.
Yeah, because marriages and babies always fix bad relationships.
It did not fix it.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Sarcasm. So why, help me understand. And I get it. I think I know the answer. Because that was basically your pattern of behavior. That's how you'd conditioned yourself. And that was your response to stress, basically. Why not just leave? Why not just let the drama go?
I think I became codependent on the control.
Yeah.
As shitty as that is to say.
No,
Looking back on it,
it's not shitty. That's just the facts of it. And don't think you're the only one who has ever been there. I mean, there are millions of fucking people walking around the same situation, same shit. They end up in basically codependent relationship after codependent relationship because that's what they keep seeking out. They seek out somebody who is just as, and I don't like the term broken, but they seek out somebody who's just as broken as them, usually in the same way that they're broken, whether it's mommy issues, daddy issues, whatever it is, past relationship issues. And they get into a relationship, and basically they're just getting into a relationship so they can take out their shit that happened to them in the past on somebody else. And they're not doing it consciously.
That's probably been the scariest thing I'd say over the last month and a half, looking back on it, is realizing how subconscious it was. And I'll get to that in a bit of a point I realized it. It might be the worst feeling I've ever had.
Really, even more than your Jeep breaking down 87, which, by the way, dude, once we turned the camera off, I got to tell you what happened with mine.
My transmission finally came in.
Sweet. Maybe you'll be able to go to Colorado with me this year. Or Arkansas. You
mean next year? At this rate, we'll shoot for next summer. It should be done by then. And I used to be so angry at my ex-wife for everything. But one of the hardest things, I think, is still looking back and taking accountability for my actions. Like, I can't... Here was the problem, is I did everything exactly what I told you. It was a control game. It was a manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would sit here and be like, but she cheated.
Yeah, you want to play the victim.
And she wasn't nice.
Yeah, because you want to play the victim.
And I literally also just sat here and said exactly my thoughts on marrying her.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can turn around and say, but then a month in, she cheated. Okay, she did.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in a marriage for the wrong reason.
Mm-hmm.
My victim mentality then.
That's the problem with your generation, James. You all just want to be victims. Have some self-accountability.
You're not wrong.
I know, but I say it in jest. And
well, then fuck you.
No, but I mean, dude, you're 100% right. And I'm gonna say it on the recording. I'm proud of you for realizing that shit. Because that's the thing is, and what you're talking about, the realizing and taking accountability for it, that's a huge step.
We decided to try and make it work, quote unquote.
No, yeah, because that's always.
And then it was fucking gloves off for me.
So you never had any intention, or did you have intention and just didn't know how to do it?
Both. I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah. It's not an easy thing to repair from.
And I don't know that I cared to. It was a control game. At that point, it was my victim mentality said, you made me feel like shit.
So I'm going to punish you.
Yeah. And guess what? The fucking marriage failed.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while after it, it was, well, it's her fault. She cheated. It was easy. It was easy. It wasn't a lie.
But it wasn't the whole truth either.
No. And then even after we were divorced, for a while, that game continued. And we would still talk, still sleep together every once in a while, and it was purely out of control. That was how I felt I could still control everything for the ways I felt I was wronged. And meanwhile, through all this, I had a lot of superficial friendships. Bars were easy. Let's go do something. Mm-hmm. Let's not really invest in the friendship and have hard conversations. Let's just go do something. Mm-hmm. Let's throw pictures up on Facebook over it. Mm-hmm. And I don't hate any of those people. We're not mad at each other. You could still call us, I guess, acquaintances or friends, but they're not here anymore. I got on the fire department not because I wanted to help people, not because I wanted a t-shirt, and not even truly because I wanted the image of it. I got on because I remember what it's like to feel helpless. And the maybe buried deep down inside still somewhat has a hope of being a decent person to me knew that I never wanted someone to turn out like me. I never wanted someone to feel so helpless that they turned into the absolute monster that I had become.
Well, so here's one thing that I would like you to do, and stop referring to yourself as a monster.
There's a lot of evil people with agendas in this world, and I wasn't far behind them.
I think you're being a little bit too hard on yourself as far as that goes. I wish I could remember who it was, and I saw it just as a thing on Instagram. And it was about negative self-talk and how toxic it is for you. Now, that's not to say that you don't admit what you did wrong, but it's like we talked about the other day, and we've talked about whenever Rachel was on the show and other people that we've had on the show. There's a difference between shame and guilt. You know, guilt says you did something wrong. Shame says you are wrong. And like all that, I was a monster, I was this, I was that, you sliding really down that shame hill.
You know,
and believe me, you're not going to get better from that.
I fully believe in karma. I think you can't work this job and not.
Well, you can go either way. You can believe in karma, or you can be totally, that's fucking bullshit. Because the people that you see that are, like, how many times have you ran an accident, a car wreck, one driver is completely fucking hammered drunk and is not hurt at all, and plowed into a minivan full of fucking nuns or something,
yeah.
And they're all fucked up, some of them are dead, and this piece of shit ain't hurt at all.
How many times have you seen the drunk guy sit there on the steps and motherfuck you and then fall down the steps as he's motherfucking you? You know, like.
Well, that does happen too, but you know what I'm saying. Like, I think you can lean to either side on that.
You know, a lot of resentment, another layer to the story, a lot of resentment from my ex-wife came because of my grandpa. Her and I had made the decision to move him in with us because his health was starting to fail. I kicked her out after her actions that I didn't take accountability for, and I resented her for my actions of kicking her out and me being left to do everything with my grandpa by myself. Now, should we have been in a relationship? No. Should I have made a better decision before moving my grandpa up into the shit show of the life that it was that I put on a good act for him? Abso-fucking-lutely.
And you can sit here and shoulda, woulda, coulda, and Monday morning quarterback this shit to death, man. But here's the thing. It happened. It is what it is. This is a situation you're in. So figure it out. That's where you're at.
Then I stepped it up another level again. I was the single eligible bachelor with a Jeep, worked for the fire department.
Had a motorcycle.
That
you wrecked multiple times.
I've wrecked it once.
Twice.
I got hit.
And you laid it down in your front fucking yard. That's a wreck.
It was muddy.
It doesn't matter. Take some accountability. You knew you shouldn't have been riding through the fucking yard, and you did it anyway.
Well, if we're going to count that, then it's 3 times because I laid it down on a sand road in Mexico.
Exactly.
Man, I was fucking flying high. I'd take all the trips. I'd fucking take all the pictures. Somehow I was just a fucking black cloud at work, so I'd bring all the fucking critical patients in that I was worth the shit of a medic, so the nurses would be like, oh, great job. And I had these motherfuckers eating out of the palm of my hand. Everybody. You take such care of your grandpa. You work so hard. You care about others. You're so fun. You're free. You do what you want. You focus on yourself. You travel. And not a single fucking bit of it was true. I traveled, and did everything to fucking hide from shit. I brought my grandpa in to quote unquote take care of him, and then I'd fucking work all the time. And then I'd fucking travel. And sometimes I would take him with me, but a lot of times I didn't. And he fucking sat there lonely as fuck. And I didn't care. I mean, I wouldn't say I didn't care. I was too...
You were too wrapped up in you.
To notice it.
Mm-hmm.
And... he didn't deserve that. And he doesn't deserve that. That man raised me when he didn't have to. He had to bury his daughter when he shouldn't have. He had to bury his wife when he shouldn't have. And all I was concerned about was if he could co-sign with me so I could get a good interest rate on my new toy to go off and fucking distract myself. I was on that streak for a solid couple years. And I had no intention of changing it because it worked. I could fuck whatever nurse I wanted. I could take whatever trip I wanted. I looked like a fucking shining star.
But did you really?
There are 3 individuals. There are 3 things that finally put a stop to it. And I told you this before. This podcast was another way. When we first talked about it, it was another way for my image to be out there. That I cared.
Mm-hmm. You want a virtue signal.
And I came on, episode 3, and I told my sad story of my mom dying and my wife cheated, and I'm healing. I wasn't fucking healing.
No, you're avoiding.
And how many motherfuckers have we had on this show that were like, they're maybe avoiding. They're maybe not healed yet.
Mm-hmm.
Or how many times did you fucking sit there and say, you should probably slow down a little bit? And I'm like, no, fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine.
Well, we've recorded over 106 episodes, and I would say that, 106 episodes.
And the problem was, Jeremy, I was fucking good at the act.
But were you really? I mean, if
our viewers,
well, if somebody as blind as me fucking see it.
For our viewers and our guests, I was. I can ask all the right questions. I can have the conversation. It's easy to ask the question that I've been thinking of that I know I need to address for years.
Yeah, and as long as you don't have to answer it.
Yeah, it's easy to ask somebody else.
Yeah.
You, my motorcycle club, and my ex-girlfriend. I got in the motorcycle club because it was cool. I liked riding.
It was cool when Sons of Anarchy was on TV. It's not cool anymore.
I enjoy it. But
I'm joking. Don't get all upset. I ride a motorcycle too, okay? Fuck off.
Fucking 1%er over here.
Yeah.
And you know, I will say this job was a lot like my own life. We will preach the thin red line. It's a brotherhood. Fire service is a family. It's fucking not. Maybe amongst your crew, if you've got a solid crew. But a lot of it's lip service.
Yeah.
But it was easy for me. And hey, lip service? Sign me up.
Yeah. I will say this though. After seeing it yesterday, there are some genuine fucking people that don't get the credit that they deserve. That go above and beyond what they probably need to do or have to do
Yeah.
to take care of people on the job. And it's still there.
The problem is it's far and few between.
I 100% agree. Because 90...
And it's easier. It is easier to make the appearance that you're that person than actually be that person.
Yeah. Because 98% of them are us. It's lip service. Oh, hey, man, you ever need anything, just give me a call. Yeah.
You know, I with the club, I just met a group of guys that didn't care what you did. Do you like motorcycles? Yeah. Do you like to ride? Yeah. Do you care about the community? I think so. You're welcome, man. You are welcome to be a part of this camaraderie. And for the first time, I found myself not having to put on an act. They didn't care. Hey, you're just welcome, man. You're just welcome to be here. And it was easy just to kind of be me. Like, hey, I'm just happy to be here. You have all taken me in just for me being me. And then I had a crush on this girl for a while. We'd known each other since high school. Well, she remembers me from high school. I was drunk then. By far the fucking prettiest girl in Bates County. By far. And I was starting to do better about myself, but I was like, prettiest girl in Bates County. Let's add that one to the resume. And I got in very quickly and realized I was like, oh shit, I might be in over my head. Because again, I didn't have to, she told me, she's like, yeah, I kind of wanted to actually date you for a while. I had a crush on you for since high school. And I was like, oh shit. And it wasn't for the image. It wasn't for the life I painted. She actually just liked me for me. I'll be goddamn. Scary when you think about it.
I mean, crazier things have happened.
Yeah.
I can't think of any right now.
I'm ugly as fuck.
You said it. I didn't say it.
Yeah, but, I mean, you've said it before.
Well.
I think even on air.
I mean, just because you had a tree in your front yard called the ugly tree and you used to climb it all the time.
And then fall out of it
and hit every branch on the way down. I mean,
I
had the same tree in my front yard, though, so it's fine.
The problem was with this is I had always, in the back of my mind, knew that if I was going to have a successful relationship, I needed to heal.
And you took the steps immediately to do that.
No.
Damn it.
I knew I needed to heal before I would ever have a worth a shit relationship. While, yes, I put on the image about my ex-wife or ex-girlfriends or whatever, I knew when I looked in the mirror, I was probably the cause of most of the problems. And I knew that a lot of that behavior would need to get curtailed, and a lot of my soul would have to change before I could have a successful relationship. Now all of a sudden, I've found the person that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, but I had not done the legwork ahead of time to be ready to be that person that she may have wanted to spend the rest of her life with. Then you're playing catch up. And that's hard. I realized the situation I was in and wanted to be better for it. And I still am. I started doing what I knew needed done. But I still wasn't ready, and I was still behind the eight ball, and that showed its ugly head a lot of times. And it was simple shit. Like, she would go to the end of the earth for me and my grandpa for anything I needed. And I would just ask her if she needed anything. She knew, and it was very vocal about it, like, hey, I know you're busy. I know you can't do this. I want to do this because I love you, because I enjoy it, because I want to make you happy. And I was just like, hey, I like feeling happy. This is nice. I'm going to sit back and enjoy it. That's not how a fucking relationship works. And if anything, I felt overwhelmed because I was just like, whoa, this is cool. Like, like stepping into some like aura, like, this is neat. Like, I've never felt, I had never felt that way before. I was like, this is what a real relationship is like. This is what two people that love each other are like.
That's called the honeymoon phase.
Yes and no. Because, like, even in our conversations, it got even different than any other honeymoon phase in a relationship before. As immature as I was, there was a level of maturity, acceptance, and understanding that I just hadn't had before. And I was like, I want to strive for this. She had 2 kids. They were a fucking blast. And I was like, it's cool. Like, for the first time in my life, I was like, this is somebody that I would enjoy coming home to work from each day. And I sat there and I was, I guess, lazy. I don't know a better word to describe it. On one hand, I want to say distracted. I want to say that I was treading water, but I think maybe just lazy because I didn't just take the steps or ask to try and that was what we got in from the get-go, was like, hey, we're going to be teammates. Cool. She was. And I was a coattail rider. So eventually she got burnt out. And then it was just like, well, and then for probably the first time in my life, I had just had the flood of like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep on this path of just like, my agenda has to come first, because that's how it's always been. And I've lied and stolen and cheated and manipulated to get my version up front and center in front of everybody. She wasn't buying it. She could love me all she wants. She could move the moon for me. But that doesn't mean she has to tolerate my bullshit. Nobody did. You don't. The guys in the club haven't. And I'd say probably the last month and a half has just been when you really just are forced to wide-eyed look back on it. I'm just like, God damn. Like, I don't even fucking know who I was. And that is a shitty feeling. Now, luckily, her love and patience has been fantastic. We still communicate. She's sick a lot. And with 2 kids that somehow are sick all the time. I don't remember being that sick when I was a kid. I really don't. But she is still taking the time to invest in me when she can. And goddamn if I haven't tried her for that either. I've put her through the fucking ringer of emotion, and she's been about ready to stab me 57 times. But she hasn't taken herself out of my life yet. But, and her and I have had the conversation, even if it's not for her down the road, I've got to get it fucking figured out. And one of the biggest things, too, for me was just looking back on shit. That goes back to the whole point of this podcast, was feeling like a fucking fraud, truthfully. Like, I sat back and looked and I'm like, who in the fuck was I to ever get on some fucking pedestal and ever preach to anybody about healing when I have fucking avoided it like the fucking plague.
So, do you remember the conversation that we had about why we were starting the podcast?
Truthfully, I probably wasn't listening.
Well, that's
Truthfully,
par for the course.
Sorry.
So, and I've said it multiple times. The reason that we started this podcast and the reason that we have the guests on and we talk about the things that we talk about is so that people don't make the same mistakes we did. To raise awareness of that this is an issue and it's okay to ask for help. You know, and it's important to take accountability for yourself that you need help and then ask for it correctly and not wait until the wheels are fucking falling off. That's why we started this. So obviously,
My fucking wheel fell off my truck on the fucking highway yesterday.
fucking par for the course. Holy shit, man.
Like, dude, I have never...
You are a shit show wrapped in a fucking... I don't even have the right words to describe it, James. I wish Chris was here. I really do.
I made a post, so something I have done. Intentionally, not intentionally, mostly unintentionally, partially intentionally. I've lost... Well, yesterday was 50 pounds. Since the end of summer. A lot of it started during rescue class. During structural collapse, we were just doing, and I was so tired, I kind of wasn't eating, or just whatever, and I'm like... And I started shedding weight then. And I'm like, all right, this got cool. And then after the breakup, I was fucking miserable. I didn't eat. I didn't eat for days and days and days. I'd eat once every 4 days. Once, that was it. And it really started coming off. And then I was like, well, this isn't maybe healthy. So then I should just start working out.
Yeah.
And then it really started coming off. But I felt like shit.
Yeah.
But the nice thing out of all that, after not eating for so long, is I was able to get portion control back under control. Just because my stomach had shrank and I found and then I just actually made the intentional choice to not eat till I was full all the time. Pick a decent portion, not even decent, just pick a fair portion, eat it, go back your merry fucking way. Mm-hmm. That's helped a lot too. But I had made a post yesterday on my Facebook, and I even said in the post, and God, it was probably the first time ever. I hate to say it was a cry for help, because I don't want to say that. It was more of a cry for accountability, I guess. Because I was like, hey, I've been a shit person. And I've hit a lot of things, and I've done this, and I was like, it just... I felt it was my first step towards, I don't know, public accountability. Because that's my thing. Like, all these people for so long have followed me in whatever form of life and always cheered me on and always done these nice things, and I didn't deserve it. And I don't. And I think they are all owed accountability on behalf of me. Just like, hey, you fucking cheering on fraud. That's all you're doing. And for me, I think yesterday was kind of my, even though it could have been a positive moment, that was kind of my, like, rock bottom. I can't fucking put on the act any longer. I'm tired. I'm tired, and all it's done in turn has hurt me and make me lose people and make people not trust me. And I said, when you finally start losing people that loved you, it sucks. And so I felt. And that was the wheels had finally fallen off moment. And then my fucking wheels fell off.
Yeah, so you've taken all of the lessons that we've been talking about on this podcast and really taken them to heart and got ahead of the problem then.
No,
you did exactly the same fucking thing.
I had been ignoring that noise in the front end for a while. So yeah, I did not get ahead of it.
God damn it.
And that is such a fucking metaphor for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Oh, so what are you going to do?
Well, thanks to your wife, I've got a new therapist that I'm starting, which is something like that might have been the biggest step for me. I fucking despise therapists because A, they hold you accountable,
mm-hmm.
and B, I always felt like they were talking behind my back, which for two, and there's one reason I didn't like that was because as a kid, I didn't know what the fuck to do. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand. I didn't comprehend it. I was fucking 10. And I was 11 and I was 12 and 13 and 14. Our little brains aren't fucking made to comprehend all that shit then. And then I despised it because I thought I might get outed. I don't like people talking behind my back because unless they're talking about the image I wanted, I don't want them fucking talking. And I couldn't even tell you when I made that transition. And so back to our point of what I said I would talk about later, of the shit I've done subconsciously. That, looking back on it, and my ex calling me on a lot of it, has been some of the scariest things. And she has motherfucked me so much, not so much, but hard at times, because she'd call me on shit. You're being manipulative. This is a tactic. I don't trust you. And truthfully, I would be like, no, it's actually, for once, it's fucking not. But there's two things that go to that. A, and I was very open with her. I was open with her on a lot of it. And I told her, I was like, I used to be very fucking manipulative. I lost control at an early age, and I hated it, and I never wanted to not be in control again, which was true. But then I'd brag about it. And there would be times that, couples are like, fuck this person, we'd be mad. I'm like, hey, throw me in, let me loose, let me go. I'll fucking destroy him. And I could have. And she's like, no. That's not fucking healthy. It's not fucking healthy for a relationship. And, and then when she would get mad at me for some of the stuff, I'd look back and be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe that was manipulative. But I sure didn't fucking intend it to be. So what am I doing subconsciously? And that's the scary. For me, that's been the scariest thing is.
Well, you have a pattern of behavior, James, that you're going to have to break.
Yeah, what is so ingrained? And when I say I don't know who I was, I don't. Because that was, I don't know who I don't know. I don't know who I am because that narcissism, manipulation, those lies were so ingrained in my daily life that it just, And the problem is I was relying on you and the club and her to break it, and not actually
doing any of the work yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. That's not how you fix your brain and your behavior. Not as an adult. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever. I don't know why I said unfortunately. The fact is that you have to put the work in. You have to do the things that need to be done to fix that shit. And part of it is knowing that there's a problem and then taking the steps to fix the problem. So you know there's a problem. You're taking the steps to fix the problem. But right now, before you get into that process, it's a conscious choice. It's no different than, Rachel and I were driving down the road the other day, and this car comes in, short on-ramp, and the intersection, whatever. And this guy comes hauling ass up the on-ramp, and I'm just bebopping along in the right-hand lane because the highway goes right.
Because I'm minding my fucking business.
Because I'm minding my fucking business, and I need to go right. I need to take that interstate. Well, as he's coming up, I looked at Rachel, and I said, hey, he's going to cut us off. You can see it coming from a mile away. And he comes up, flies right in front of me, gets in front of me, and I mean a good 2 car lengths probably, like not even close. No, I didn't slow down. I didn't speed up. I just kept going the speed limit. And as soon as he gets over, finger comes out the window flipping me off. Now, at that point, I had a choice to make. Now, could I have flipped my shit and railed about it for the rest of the day?
That's why you keep a water bottle in your car at all times so you can throw it at him.
Well, he was in front, and I don't have that good of a left
pass
hand.
him.
Well, but then I'd have had to miss my exit.
But you teach him a lesson, Jeremy.
Yeah, see, and you're going down that path. Or you can just say, wow, somebody's having a bad day. Or that guy's just an asshole. You don't have to let that shit affect you going forward. And that's what I'm saying with all of your stuff is, yeah, it was part of who you were. It doesn't have to be part of who you are going forward. It can be something that you have left in the past. Now, and it's that weird thing of it's always going to be part of you and blah, 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 and this and that. And yes, no, maybe, I don't fucking know, but it's a choice. It's a choice of whether you do that shit or not. And if you recognize the signs, which that's why you go to therapy and talk to a professional so you can start recognizing those signs, then you catch it early and you stop making those decisions. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. And it, I've never understood addict behavior, I think, before, until probably the last month.
Really? Really?
Truly.
Get the fuck out of here.
Truly understood it. Because I'd always just equated it as like...
You always pigeonholed addict as...
Alcohol or
drugs or something.
Yeah.
You can be addicted to anything.
Including behavior.
Yeah.
And it never probably really clicked until this last month and a half. Because if anything, it's easier to get your fix.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to get up to go to the fridge. It's free. I don't have to spend money on it.
Yeah.
I don't, I got to suck a dick for it. Like, it's free. It's a simple, easy choice.
Yep. All I got to do is say this thing. Or give this look.
It's a shitty feeling, dude.
Yeah, it is. I've been there, man. When all your bullshit gets slapped right in your face. Been there.
But yeah, I think if anything, it was. I owe apologies to a lot of people. Not only apologies, assurances to do better.
I don't think assurances are the way to go. Just do better. Because if you start going around, you start going around saying, "Hey, I was manipulative and I did this and I did that, but I'm going to do better." Well, what happens the first time that you don't?
Yeah. I owe the action, not the words.
Yeah. Just fucking follow through, man.
Yeah.
Like if you say you're going to be somewhere. And don't be somewhere and not be there.
I got real good at that.
Oh, yeah, I know. But that's the thing, man, is it's the follow through. It's the follow through on the commitments. It's doing the hard work. It's all that stuff. That's the thing. And then also the other side of that is not being afraid to say, you know what? I overcommitted myself.
Max used the word self-sabotage one time. And I knew exactly what it was, and I still said, "What's that?"
Yeah. I don't know if that necessarily applies to you.
I got really fucking good at it was easy, Jeremy. I overextended myself.
Mm-hmm.
I did all the things.
Mm-hmm.
So if I didn't want to do something, it was, sorry, I'm too busy. And everybody knew because I was busy. I put on the image that I was busy.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really easy to get out of something by claiming I was busy.
Yeah.
And if I was doing something and then it failed, it was really easy to be like, "Well, I was busy." Once again, playing it, no different than the fucking victim card. Same thing.
Yeah. That's not self-sabotage, though. Self-sabotage is whenever you do something intentionally knowing you're going to fail and you do it on purpose.
But I look like I tried. I got real fucking good at it, Jeremy.
Yeah, that's the part that is not self-sabotage. Because you didn't want people to think you were a fuck-up. You wanted them to think you had all your shit together.
No, I wanted them to think I was human and failure was okay sometimes.
No, you didn't. You wanted to be everything to everybody.
You know, and that's where... You're right. And that's where sometimes I struggle with... I truly enjoy helping people. But then I also, in the same breath, like, wouldn't do it if there wasn't a benefit to me. But I enjoyed it, but it had to benefit me. And it was like, it was this constant just, the old devil and God are raging inside of me quote, you know, that just like, so many times I'm like, why am I actually fucking doing this? Like, I can go feel good doing something else. There were times that, when I say I don't know who I was, I still don't. But I felt like there were times where the genuine part of me would poke its head through the clouds every once in a while. So now for me, it's just trying to.
Now you get to go on a journey of self-discovery.
Fuck.
And find out who James really is.
Is there jogging? Because if they're jogging, I'm not doing it. I'll just go back to my old lifestyle.
It's yogging. I think it's with a soft J. It's this new thing.
If there's running in it, I'm out.
Yeah. No, dude. I mean, look. Ultimately, and I get how people can say that, you know, I don't know who I am or didn't know who I was or... And I think that's kind of true, but also I think that your authentic self is there, and it gets tucked away and hidden away because it's vulnerable, or your authentic self at some point got hurt. And you put on all this other stuff to protect yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that, I mean, from what we've talked about in the past and what you shared
the problem
today,
is I don't know that there's been an authentic Jamie since the age of 10. And there's been a lot of development during that time, and a lot of very negative, bad habits have got me through a lot of development.
have you really developed, though? Because you really seem like a child most of the time anyway.
Because I think farts are funny. I don't know who doesn't.
Adults don't think farts are funny.
Well, fucking adults suck.
No, but, dude, it's not like it hasn't been developing the whole time. It's not like it's not there. So, I mean, ultimately, you have to figure out who you want to be going forward. Do you want to be this person, or do you want to be this person?
The struggle I'm having right now, I know who I want to be.
Mm-hmm. You just don't know the steps you need to take to get there?
No, not only that. And this is where it's dangerous, and this is why I'm this has been my recent struggle. I know who I want to be. I know I know the steps to take to reach the goal. I'm not going to sit there and say I know how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I just know the steps. I know how to read the map.
Mm-hmm. You know it's not a goal, right?
Yes.
Okay. It's a journey for the rest of your life.
The problem being now is wanting to do it for me and not wanting it to do for my ex for a potential down the road with her. That's been probably the biggest struggle of and I see it and I'm trying to justify it in my head. I don't know if it's the most positive way by saying the two can go hand in hand. But I'm starting to see maybe more that they can't. But I want to meet the goals that her and I set out in the relationship for by being teammates and doing the things that make a successful relationship. The give and the take, the 50-50, sometimes 70-30, sometimes 20-80, depending on a situation. But
here's the thing.
I'm trying to learn how to do it for myself and not just for her. If that works, great. I've become a better person, and that opportunity can then present itself later down the road. Fantastic. But if I don't, the opportunity is never going to be there.
So you have to separate the two. They are not one and the same. And you will not, well, I don't like to speak in absolutes whenever it comes to this kind of stuff, but it's highly unlikely that you would be successful personally if that was your motivation.
And that's the thing too, where and she made a comment one night. She's like, depending on where this goes, she's like, at least you started the step. This relationship is opened your eyes.
Yeah, it could absolutely be the catalyst, but.
And here's the thing: maybe down the road, these steps make it to where I find somebody. I don't want to say oh my God, it's better than her, but
yeah.
But it's just one of those things of it's no different than it was when the relationship started. I didn't take steps to heal. I knew if I hadn't, I wasn't going to have a successful relationship. I didn't have a successful relationship. So whether it's her or somebody else or a dude or whatever it may be, there is going to be no successful relationship. And it doesn't even have to be a romantic relationship. There's not going to be successful friendships. There's not going to be successful family relationships. Everything has been so superficial, it will never truly be real unless I take those steps, no matter who it is.
Mm-hmm. So ultimately, you have to do it for yourself so that you can have those successful relationships. That's what we talked about the other night, man. You got to do the work on you for you before you can worry about being a teammate. That's why look at sports. You had to learn the fundamentals. They didn't just throw you out at practice and go, here's the ball, run. You know?
My little fat ass was offensive lineman.
Whatever. I mean, you had to learn the fundamentals of how to place your feet, all of that stuff, where you could put your hands, where you couldn't. You had to learn those to be the best player you could be, so you could be the best teammate you could be.
And here's the thing, and it wasn't a month, it wasn't an overnight, it wasn't a year. It was years.
Yeah.
I'd played football since I was 5 years old, and I was still developing when I was 21 years old in college.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just...
Yeah. And you're going to continue. I mean, your brain has only been fully formed for about 5 years. Because what are you now, 33? 32? The brain doesn't fucking fully form until you're 26 or 27.
That would make a lot more sense now that I know that.
Yeah. That's why a lot of people make a lot of dumb decisions in their teenage years and early and mid-20s. And then whenever they start to get in their 30s, they're like, man, that was a bunch of dumb shit that I did. Oh, well, we were just young. Yeah, you were young. You made bad decisions because you didn't process all the information correctly.
You know, I've always... one of the things I felt that, you know, they were going behind my back with was, he gave me an autism diagnosis when I was real young. And, God, even autism since then has changed so much. Fuck, even in the DSM-5,
mm-hmm.
they changed it to the autism spectrum instead of the DSM-4 where, you know.
Yeah.
Should I actually remember from college? And, again, it was just, there were times, there are times, and my ex would call me out. She's like, either you're flat out stupid or I could maybe see that autism diagnosis. There are some times where I amaze myself where I do not pick up on shit. Like, genuinely. I'm just like, oh, okay. Like,
I think that's everybody, man.
But again, it was just one of those things that, like, it felt at the time like just another fucking label and no answers. And I fucking have resented that for so goddamn long. So long. But yeah.
Well, I mean, if they were labeling you, they should have given you some answers.
Yeah, it's called fucking Paxil.
Yeah, that's not an answer.
Well, why don't you travel back to 2002, Jeremy, and you tell them?
Well, it's like we just talked about. Your brain's not fully formed. And you start putting in meds. Now, I say that with the caveat of sometimes those are needed. Because sometimes there's chemical issues that just, they're not going to resolve themselves on their own. But, you know, like I said, you were the tail end of that age where medicating kids was just the standard. They can't sit still in school, so they've got ADD. Oh, well, they have ADHD. Well, they need this drug or that drug. I mean, honestly, is that part of what we're fucking seeing with how fucked up people are now?
You know, truly though, Jeremy, looking back on it, it is still not an excuse for my behavior.
No, and I'm not giving you an out. I mean, there's personal accountability, but I also think you need to give yourself some grace because you were a kid. You were a kid and you started a pattern of behavior to protect yourself. And I don't think you ever really had actual good therapy. And I'm not talking bad about the therapist that you had whenever you were younger or whatever. But like you said, there have been advancements in the past 20 years, in the past 10 years, on how to treat trauma and all of that stuff that is basically, yeah, it's way different. There's a lot of new treatment modalities that work way better.
You know, side note, real side note, excuse no, consideration, yes. I couldn't even tell you how many concussions I've had.
See, and that's a factor too.
I've double digits lost count.
Yeah.
So many. Excuse, no. But
No, but see, and that's stuff that has to be taken into account.
there was a football player I knew from a town down by me, and great athlete, went to college, played. College career ended because of concussions. Because that was when we were like, "Oh my God, concussions!"
Mm-hmm.
Which still we should be now that we know what we know.
Yeah.
Killed himself, and he is still one of the most worst cases of CTE they've seen in somebody that young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude. So I'm not saying use it obviously, don't use it as an excuse.
Yeah.
But also, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I know that I'm at risk for this, and I know that this is this, so I need to take the steps. So you need to do the things, like there are certain treatment modalities, since you have fucked your brain up, running into walls, that are just not going to work for you, or it's going to take longer. And that's just the reality of it. And wrap your head around that. But the important part is what we tell everybody. You got to keep trying. You got to find the thing that works for you to where you can start making progress. And it might be, path A works for a little while and you plateau. And then you got to switch it up and do path B or C or D or go down the fucking alphabet. It's no different than working out your body.
Yep.
Because you plateau. If you just do the same workout all the time, you're going to hit a level, and that's where you're going to stay at. And you might even regress.
Yep.
Because the body will adapt and get used to it. So you have to stress your system.
If we were to do our final thoughts,
Okay.
I would say I hope people that probably may not ever watch another episode of this podcast or may never come on this podcast feel emboldened enough with their own self-discipline that they feel they no longer have to cower behind something to start their healing. Some days I feel like nobody is worse than me.
That's your fucked up brain talking to you.
But then I watch the news and I don't feel that way sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But my hope, and I guess the whole reason we did this episode, particularly on this podcast, is just that I hope somebody's just I hope they're tired of the life they're living and don't have to experience loss, heartbreak, sadness, loss of job, whatever it may be, for them to be like, I'm done. I'm tired. I'm tired of this. Because I think so often, and the guests we've had, there's always been an incident, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happened to you for you to then want to make a change, be forced to make a change?
Yeah, what was the catalyst?
Yeah. And I guess if anything, I hope that someone I hope this is their incident where they're like, I've got to do better.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's, the biggest thing is the self-accountability. Get out of the victim mindset.
It's so easy. That's the scary thing.
And it's culturally supported right now. The whole thing with, social media and the way people use it, that it's been developed to use, it reinforces that stuff. And the things that you see on the news every night, it just reinforces all of that. Change your perspective. Start seeking out positive things. Listen to positive podcasts of people who have done shit and continue to do shit. Because you can do shit too. You can better yourself. You can have a better life. You can be better. It doesn't look the same for everybody, but move the needle, steer the ship. And we talk about that all the time of, these big organizations and all this stuff. It's hard to, steer the ship even 10 degrees or whatever, and you're just trying to move it half a degree or blah, blah, blah. With your personal life, sky's the limit. Really, the only thing holding you back is you. All that other stuff is just fucking bullshit. Because for every person that says, oh, I can't do this because of this, or I've got this, or this thing's holding me back, or this thing's holding me back, guess what? There are people who had it 10 times worse than you who are fucking successful. I mean, think about it. You want to...
And it ain't going to be made into a Hollywood movie. Either.
No, it's not. And, you may never be the Hollywood star. You may never be,
I've got the face for a radio.
Yeah. And the voice for silent movies. So, but, I mean, think about it. You want to talk about people who got off their ass and did stuff. And it's not the greatest example, but you look at Dwayne Johnson, right? Mm-hmm. So, dad's a professional wrestler. He goes to University of Miami on a fucking scholarship. And then finds out real quick nobody in the NFL gives a fuck about him. Because he just wasn't that good. So he goes to the CFL. He can't cut it in the fucking Canadian Football League. So what does he do? He goes back home, learns how to be a wrestler. He's got $7 in his pocket at one point, blah, blah, blah. Everybody knows the story. And now he's hugely successful, fucking millionaire. Everybody knows who he is. But he could have just as easily, if he hadn't put the work in, been some fucking no-name that nobody knew about. So here's my takeaway. And
your final thought, you mean?
My final thought.
Yeah.
Why not you? Why not? Everybody always wants to ask, why me? Why me? Well, why not you? Shit happens. But it can also be, why not me? I can be successful like that. I can do those things. I can go on that trip. It just takes work. That's it. Have some self-accountability. Have some discipline. Get off your fucking ass. Put the work in.
And I think recognizing what you don't have control of.
Yeah.
And not spending your every second of waking energy on it. Mm-hmm. When you can be spending that same energy on your own improvement.
Mm-hmm. Those are all choices. And it's how you make those choices and then follow through on them that ultimately are going to tell the difference.
Absolutely.
Yep. So once you get done with your phone, you can close it out.
I don't want to. I've done it the last 2 times. You got this time. I've done enough talking.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that episode. I hope you learned something from it. I hope that you guys will like and subscribe and all of that good stuff. So yeah.
Just don't unsubscribe.
Yeah. And if you unsubscribe, then fuck you. Now, look, on this podcast, we're going to talk about real shit. And if for any reason you guys were under the illusion that shit doesn't happen to everybody, then I'm sorry you've been living under a rock. mental health isn't a one and done. It takes work, and sometimes it takes a lot of work. And you have to stay on top of it. It's not something that you just go to therapy one time and you're done. Now, it could be you go to therapy one time and then you take those lessons that you learned and apply them, but you have to do the work. It's still work. So, yeah, if you are struggling, reach out, have some self accountability. There are resources out there. If you know somebody that's struggling, reach out to them, encourage them, let them know that there are resources out there. And yeah, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time.